Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM. Countdown to audio torture.
The Rated R Safety Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Let the eardrum pain begin.
Grooving, because there is no doubt about that on how that will actually work. On how you can interact with the show if you want to do that, you go to callinradio.com. Callinradio.com. I'm terrible most of the times in regards to looking at it. I think you've come to that realization after all these years in doing this. I'll look over. I just don't look really when it comes to the chat boxes and all that kind of fun stuff. But I glance and see what's coming in to see what we need to talk about. So, sorry, I know. It makes me a non-hot phone person. It's radio crap talk is really what it boils down to. Anyway, so let's talk real quick about what is trending, because I think that's going to be important for today's show.
Here is what was trending. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so here's the stuff that's on the tap for today. You, too, can be part of Silicon Valley Bank history. You can also get some discount black market crap if you want that. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the hit list. More insights of the effects of persistent inflation. We'll talk about that when we get to the swamp. Frank Abagnale is the ultimate con man, and Brian May gets knighted at Buckingham. We'll talk about that. Lenny Kravitz will host the 2023 iHeartRadio Music Awards, and Ryan Seacrest is last day with Live with Kelly and Ryan has been announced. We'll talk a little bit more about that if you're so inclined to do so. So if you're not familiar with what we do here, let me tell you real quick. We talk about safety in the news and safety. And people go, well, hold on. Why do you talk about safety and why do you talk about the news? Well, we talk about the news to keep you current on what the hell is going on. We talk about safety because that's an important aspect of what we do with our show. I know, difficult times in regards of about talking about that, but that's one of those things that we need to talk about. So with that being said, we bring in some professional broadcasters that they really truly understand what the hell they are talking about, because most of the time I'm here going, what did I say? So there you go. So we'll do it that way. We'll bring in the pros, let them tell you about what the hell's going on inside of the news, and then we'll come back and do some commentary, because what else are we going to do at this early hour of the morning?
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
NBC News Radio, I'm Mark Mayfield. More severe weather is slamming both U.S. coasts. A nor'easter is bringing snow, rain, and high winds to parts of the Northeast, where more than 250,000 customers dealt with power outages on Tuesday. Upstate New York and New England are feeling the brunt of it. More than 20 million people are under winter alerts. Meantime, over 30 million people in California are under flood alerts as another atmospheric river dumps more heavy rain on that storm-ravaged state. It also brought hurricane-force wind gusts and widespread power outages. President Biden is taking action to curb gun violence as he met with survivors of a recent mass shooting in Monterey Park, California on Tuesday. In a speech, the president laid out the details of his new executive order on gun control.
This executive order helps keep firearms out of dangerous hands, as I continue to call on Congress to require background checks for all firearm sales.
It aims to increase background checks, raise awareness of red flag laws, and crack down on firearms dealers who are violating the law. Biden added that Congress must act to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Back in January, 11 people were shot and killed in Monterey Park in a predominantly Asian-American community after a Lunar New Year festival. Ohio is suing railroad company Norfolk Southern over the toxic train derailment in East Palestine last month. Lisa Taylor has more.
Attorney General Dave Yost announced the state is seeking damages, civil penalties, and a declarative judgment that Norfolk Southern is responsible. The lawsuit claims there were multiple violations of state and federal law. Yost added, a big point of this lawsuit is to make sure that those long-term effects are not only not forgotten, but they are addressed. I'm Lisa Taylor.
And thousands of school workers in Los Angeles plan to announce a 3-day strike today. About 30,000 union members in non-teaching positions are asking for a 30% raise and a $2 an hour equity pay increase. If they go out on strike, the Los Angeles Unified School District's 35,000 teachers are expected to walk out as well. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
Safety in a way never heard of before. The Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
From FSN in London, I'm Nina Maria Potts with the latest world headlines. The US has accused Russia of unsafe and unprofessional conduct over a collision with an American unmanned Reaper drone over the Black Sea, causing it to crash. North Korea has fired another 2 missiles as it continues its response to joint war games being conducted by the US and South Korea in the region. And strike action in the UK and France are disrupting life. In London, commuters are facing a day of transport chaos after a 24-hour strike.
Listen at your own risk. Rated R Safety Show.
San Francisco could become the first major U.S. city to fund reparations for slavery and systemic racism. Brian Shook reports.
Payments of $5 million to every eligible black adult, the elimination of personal debt and tax burdens, guaranteed annual incomes of at least $97,000 for 250 years, and homes in San Francisco for just $1 a family are just part of what's being considered by a city-appointed task force. Critics have slammed it as being financially impossible, with one analyst estimated that each non-black family in the city would have to pay at least $600,000. I'm Brian Shook.
The Defense Department is leaving funding for the war in Ukraine out of its new budget request. Instead, Pentagon officials say the plan is to continue to get emergency funding from Congress. Defense analysts say the Pentagon might be trying to insulate its core programs against wrangling on Capitol Hill, where some House Republicans are moving away from providing aid to Ukraine as it fights against invading Russian forces. The special prosecutor in the Alec Baldwin Rust case is resigning. Andrew Whitman has a story.
On Tuesday, Andrea Reeb announced she would be resigning from the trial, saying she didn't want her dual roles as both prosecutor and legislator to cloud the issues. Reeb was hired last August to lead the prosecution into the shooting death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the set of the film Rust in 2021. A few months later, she was elected to New Mexico's House of Representatives. Baldwin's lawyers have argued she can't serve as a lawmaker and prosecutor simultaneously. Reeb said resigning from the trial is, quote, the best way to ensure justice is served in this case.
And 7 sheriff's deputies are being charged with second-degree murder for the death of a man at a Virginia mental hospital. A local prosecutor says deputies with the Henrico County Sheriff's Office took 28-year-old Ervo Otieno to the state hospital south of Richmond last week to admit him as a patient. Otieno was being physically restrained by the deputies and died during the intake process. Details surrounding his death have not been released, but a lawyer for his family called it brutal. Mark Mayfield, NBC News Radio.
You are listening to something magical. You're listening to the Rated R Safety Show.
It's always amazing to me on how technology changes, and so does the environment that we're in. And cyber criminals will do everything they can to take advantage of a system. If you don't own a home, you have nothing to fear about what I'm about to tell you. But if you own a home like me and you don't guard it with home title lock, you're inviting home title fraud. One of the fastest growing crimes. Cyber thieves around the world know our home values are sky high at the moment, and that makes us a target. The crime is scary simple. Let me explain it to you real quick. A cyber thief simply forges your name on a property sale form and refiles it. That's it. Now he or she is on the deed of your home and you have no idea that you're a victim. Then the person takes out a loan on your home and vanishes, leaving you to prove to the police that you didn't commit bank fraud. Home Title Locks puts a virtual barrier around your home title. The instant they detect any kind of tampering or anybody messing around, they help shut it down. Look, if you have equity in your home, you need to guard it the best way that you can. Some people might even go as far as guarding it with their life. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you already are a victim. And enter the code RADIO. That's RADIO. That's the code RADIO for 30 days free of protection. That's code RADIO at HometitleLock.com.
Okay, men. This is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're going to go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you going to do? You're going to go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You got to dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, in yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This portion of the show has been sponsored by Private Internet Access, America's #1 virtual private network, or VPN. Even if you use incognito mode, internet service providers is storing your browser data and many times even selling it. But Private Internet Access, or PIA, can help you. PIA encrypts and reroutes your internet traffic through one of its own servers, hiding your data from your internet service provider or network admin. And with servers in over 75 countries, you can get unrestricted access to geo-blocked content from around the world. PIA comes with easy-to-use apps and browsers extension for all devices, a rock-solid privacy policy, open source security, advanced customization settings, and it was just ranked the fastest VPN in the world by PC Magazine. And if you sign up right now with PIA, you can take advantage of a special deal only for Safety FM listeners. Only by using the following link, you can get the digital privacy for less than $2 a month. Yes, you did hear me correctly, less than $2 a month, and an extra 4 months for free. So that means for only $1.98 a month and 83% off, you can get this service for you right now. That's so much more inexpensive than virtually every other VPN on the market. And if you get it right now, you can take PIA's 30-day risk-free challenge. You can try it out for 30 days, see if you like it, and if not, just return it for a full refund. So just go to safetyfm.com/VPN. That's safetyfm.com/VPN to try out the best VPN on the planet completely risk-free. Now remember, safetyfm.com/VPN.
This show is almost as enjoyable as hearing the sound of the toilet flush. Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
What do guys like besides pizza and morning sex?
Jay Allen in the morning.
So bizarre and unnatural.
It's all good. On radio.
Okay, here we're back with only 17 minutes past the top of the hour as you and I are hanging out. And we got a lot of info to cover on the shit list. So let's go ahead and go through it right away. Some relics from SVB, yes, Silicon Valley Bank swags closets are fetching hefty prices tags on eBay. A fleece jacket is going for about $1,000. SVB branded drink cup is going for nearly about $200, and thermoses for over $120. That's even the cutting board for with some of the stuff for the cutting board for the stuff that has the SVB logo on it etched into it is going for about $200. So if you want to get your SVB swag, which I don't understand why you'd want to do that, now is your opportunity too. Anyways, a Russian fighter jet took out an American drone flying in a neutral airspace over the Black Sea on Tuesday, sending the drone into the water. In a statement, the U.S. military said that the Russian jet dumped fuel on the drone after multiple passes before hitting the drone with the propeller. By the way, the military statement also noted that the Russian interference was an environmentally unsound. So there's that. So we'll see what happens there. Anyways, after weeks of rumors, Meta, Facebook's parent company, has confirmed another round of layoffs and will cut about 10,000 employees from their payroll. This follows 11,000 job cuts from last November, as Mark Zuckerberg has said that he's spending 2023 making his company more efficient. This also including closing about 5,000 current job openings between salary reduction, ditching dead-end projects, and other efficiencies. The company is expected to decrease expenses by, are you ready for this? $92 billion a year. Now, we're not talking about life impact because, why would we comment on a news story about that? $92 billion in regards of efficiency for the company. Isn't that important?
We at Safety FM are not responsible for what this idiot behind the microphone is saying. He is trying to be entertaining. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, earlier this year, the city of Newark, New Jersey signed a cultural trade agreement to become a sister city with the people of Kalisa in Hindu Nation near Asia, a subsidiant. Oops. Turns out that Kalisa isn't a real country, and it's an invention of a scam artist that tries to dupe dorks like the city of Newark and their leadership. After realizing the screw-up, Newark City Council rescinded their agreement while insisting no money was spent for the massive incompetent oversight. This is according to CBS. I mean, how does this happen? Like, how does all of a sudden somebody come up with a country and say, hey, we're going to be sisters and do all this other stuff, and nobody did some vetting? I get so concerned sometimes. Like, this is like people are depending on you that this is what's going on. I mean, seriously, and all of a sudden this happens and you go, oh, well, I don't think we were paying too much attention.
Who truly cares what this guy has to say? Who gives a shit? Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, authorities in Washington State have busted an ongoing racket in which a man stole more than $700,000 worth of Russian imported crab from a warehouse. What the hell do you do with that much crab? The man posed as an employee of a grocery chain, Safeway. Yeah, sounds pretty safe to me. Made off with about 2 shipments of 2 separate occasions using a rented truck. Once the wholesaler and Safeway realized that something was up, authorities staged a sting to catch the thief back in January of 25th, but only found a witless driver who was unaware of he was part of a crime. Days later, investigators connected the stolen crab to a distributor in Florida, selling it for prices way below the market value, though it doesn't appear that they were in on the fraud. A few weeks later, on February the 18th, the investigators tracked down the mastermind, a man named David Sabil out of Miami. He was recently booked on a one-day ticket to Colombia, but was arrested before that he could get on the plane. Yep, that one-way ticket normally is the key signs of things going on. I don't book one-way tickets without a return. I mean, just ditch the return. It's not as obvious. Okay, now I'm joking as I say all that. Or am I? Oh my God, now I'm confused.
Safety never sounded so terrible. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so let's talk about the charts. The top 5 fiction and nonfiction books currently on the New York Times bestsellers list. Coming into the fiction category at number 5, It Ends With Us. At number 4, Lessons in Chemistry. At number 3, It Starts With Us. At number 2, Never Never. And at the number 1 spot, Stormwatch. Yes, I did say Stormwatch. So there you go. Going into the nonfiction category, it goes something like this. It's Enchantment. At number 4, I'm Glad My Mom Died. At number 3, The Body Keeps the Score. At number 2, Spare. And the number 1 book in the nonfiction category coming out of Florida, oh yes, The Courage to Be Free by Ron DeSantis. Yep, I went full name with that one. So there you go. A lot of stuff going on inside of there. How swampy do we want to get? Do we want to get swampy? Or do we want somebody else to get swampy for us? I feel like we should just get markety on this Whip 'em Out Wednesday and let John talk about the market, and then we'll go from there.
Here's your Market Beat Minute for Wednesday, March 15th, brought to you by GenesisGoldIRA.com. Equity markets rebounded Tuesday following Monday's plunge after CPI data came in as expected and increased expectations for the Fed to hike rates by only 25 basis points at the next meeting. The CPI data shows cooling, but its quality is dubious as inflation remains hot and core inflation accelerated compared to the previous month. In this light, the FOMC should not be expected to let up on economic pressure, even with with signs of distress in the financial sector. It is those signs of distress the FOMC needs to see to know its policies are working. The next FOMC meeting is only a week away. Retail sales will be the news of the day as they're expected to fall by 0.4% and may come below expectations. In this scenario, the outlook for retail sales and revenue in the discretionary sector will take another hit and drag the outlook for the S&P 500. You can get the inside track from Wall Street's brightest minds delivered directly to your inbox every day at marketbeatminute.com.
Okay, thank you, John Smalls, for that information right there. Because hey, you're keeping us posted on what is going on because we need to know these things. No, I don't say these things lightly or jokingly because they're that important. Let me tell you a little bit of what I was able to find on my neck of the woods. The Dow added about 336 points to close at 32,155. The S&P added about 63 points to close at 3,919. And NASDAQ added about 239 points to close at 11,428. West Texas Intermediate closed at $71 a barrel. Brent crude was at $77 a barrel. The national average price of a gallon of gas was $3.46 yesterday. Bitcoin was up to about like 2.5% again on Tuesday. So here you go. Apparently not a good week to fly. There were 5,000 flights delayed within, into, and out of the United States on Tuesday, and more than 1,150 such cancellations. Tonight's Powerball drawing will be for $63 million jackpot or a $33.2 million payout. So, I don't know. Do you play? Do you play? I don't know if you do, but if you don't, well, I would consider it if you want to play that. I mean, it's entirely up to you. Anyways, take a listen to this real quick. Queen's guitarist Brian May was knighted by King Charles on Tuesday during the ceremony at Buckingham Palace. He was honored for his service in music and charity. Other musicians who have been awarded the prestigious award include Sir Paul McCartney, Sir Ringo Starr, Sir Mick Jagger, Sir Elton John, Sir Rod Stewart, and Sir Tom Jones. So there you go. Some stuff going on right there as we are going. Anyways, the Tom Brady signed American flag that was part of the lawsuit last year for the Patriots Hall of Fame will be on sale on eBay later this month. The backstory is the flag that they flew over Foxborough Stadium during the year that Brady took over as the start of the New England Patriots that he signed later that year. It was owned by Don Vitale, who sued the Patriots organization last year, claiming they were allegedly ruined it after putting it on display to learn for the team for the Hall of Fame. Especially Brady's signature faded away. Vitale claimed that the Hall of Fame didn't properly store it, and Brady has since then re-signed the flag. Now Vitale is ready to part with a piece of memorabilia and will give portion of the proceeds to help support those with autism, including his youngest daughter, who is on the spectrum. The asking price, I hope you're sitting when I say this, $299,999. So if you're interested in some memorabilia, I hope you have the dough to cover it. Anyways, let's get into some news stories. After facing backlash in Mississippi, sheriff is now saying that he was in ruled out foul play in the Rasheem Carter's death. Smith County Sheriff Joel Houston spoke to NBC News a day after Carter's loved ones and their attorney Ben Crump slammed the authorities.
This was not a natural death. This represents a young man who was killed.
Carter's loved ones and family attorney were dismayed by the initial swift decision from the sheriff that there was no reason to suspect foul play. They urged the Justice Department to take over the investigation as civil rights case on Monday in the news conference. Houston revealed as they has the key aspects of the investigation for the first time on Tuesday, including the department process ruling out potential suspect. The sheriff defended the early determination, saying that there was no evidence that pointed to homicide, but says that his department is still waiting on search warrants to rule more definitely. 25-year-old Carter was found dead last fall after he warned his mother that he was being chased by a white man hurling racial slurs and allegedly from work. One member of the Carter family's news conference on Monday gives their thoughts on what occurred.
He was dutifully and gainfully employed, just trying to make a living for his young child, and ends up dead, chased by what we believe to be white supremacists, a lynch mob.
Tiffany Carter, Rashim's mother, recalls the last time that she heard from him before his death.
He said, me and the owner of this company not seeing eye to eye, Mama. But if anything happened to me, he's responsible for it. I'm too smart, Mama. He got these guys wanting to kill me.
Family attorney Ben Crum says that it's alarming that someone tried to use Rashim's credit card after it was determined that he was dead.
We believe that is a big clue. Think about it. The person who had his credit card is likely to have encountered him while he was alive.
So it'll be interesting to see as this continues, because we'll definitely have to talk a little bit more about what is going on. Both candidates running for Chicago mayors are claiming past comments about police. Yes. Clarifying past comments about police. During the UIC forum last night, Brandon Johnson was asked about the comment that he made in 2020, calling about defunding the police a goal.
I said it was a political goal. I never said it was mine.
What? What kind of bullshit is that? Anyways, Paul Valles was asked about the statements that he made in the past, taking the handcuffs off of police so they can do their jobs. The former CPS CEO responded by saying that that he was talked about restoring proactive policing that is consistent with the consent decree. So there you go. This is where that double talking jive, take the money, mother. Okay, you know how the rest of that thing goes. Where people start talking about both sides of their mouth. It's like, dude, just run with it. You said it. I said it was an idea. I didn't say that it was my idea. Like, what? But you said it. Okay, very confusing. Anyways, take a listen to this. Leeper County Library Director Amy Churchill says that she'll go to jail if she needs to in order to keep the book Gender Queer on the shelves available. Leeper County prosecutor John Miller says that while he is not pressing charges at present, he says the book qualifies as sexual exploitative and harmful to children.
This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. In my opinion, this deals with the sexual exploitation of children, and that's why I chose to take action.
It was purchased last year, and a graphic novel has been checked out since and is on the waiting list. Churchill says that she stands behind the books being offered. Leeper County Library Director Amy Churchill says that she will go to jail to keep Gender Queer available.
I would stand behind every single book in our collection the same way I stand behind Gender Queer.
So I don't know. It makes it some interesting times in regards about what is going on with some of these books. Take a listen to this real quick. The Department of Defense is revealing information about service members found dead in the parking lot of the Pentagon. Trey Thomas has more info.
Brigadier General Pat Ryder released a statement saying the Pentagon received a call around 3 p.m. on Tuesday requesting a welfare check on a service member in one of the Pentagon's parking lots. When officers responded to the scene, they discovered the victim in his vehicle, apparently deceased. I'm Trey Thomas.
Okay, thank you, Trey Thomas, for that one. That's going to be an interesting one. I'm sure we'll get some more information to see exactly what is going on inside of there, because why would we not find out some more info on what is happening? Anyways, it is 32 minutes past the top of the hour, so you know that it's close enough for us to do that thing that we do around this time. And if you don't know what that thing is, well, it's called the main story.
Here is our main story on the Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, main story time. So let's sit back for a moment and talk about genres and talk about issues that go on inside of our world and things that happen. And I guess, I realistically try to take a look around sometimes and wonder why some of the issues that happen inside of our work continue to go forward. And I'll ask you just out of a question. Do you have issues with trust? Like, think about that for a moment. Do you have issues with trust inside of your workplace? Because listen to this. Some people will sit back and say they have issues with trust. And then I will ask this one question. Have you ever ridden in a Lyft, a taxi, or an Uber? And you go, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, you tend to trust those people relatively quickly because you have now just jumped into a stranger's car and believe that they're going to give you what you were looking for. Now, we can apply this to so many other things. So let's talk real quick. There are hard work. So we'll play the story factor. Once upon a time, there was a hardworking employee, and let's name this person Bob, who had been with his company for about 10 years. He had always been a loyal and dedicated worker, putting in long hours and going above and beyond his targets. Now, if I'm telling you the story about Bob, one day Bob found out that his company had been secretly hiring a consultant to evaluate the performance of all employees. He couldn't help but feel a little bit betrayed that his company had not been upfront with him about this. And to make matters worse, the consultant turned out to be a robot. You heard me there. Bob couldn't believe it. He had always thought of his companies that valued him by his human touch. But now they were turning to machines to evaluate performance. Bob tried to prove that he was better than any robot, but he couldn't help feeling a little bit suspicious and resentful towards the company. He started to wonder what other secrets were they keeping from him. As time went on, Bob's trust in the company continued to erode. He began to feel like just another number inside of the system, and he started to think about leaving the company. But then one day, Bob had an epiphany. He had an epiphany of what was going on. He realized that his company was not perfect, but neither was he. He decided to focus on what he could control, his own work, his own attitude. He started to work even harder and try to be more positive and collaborative with his colleagues. In the end, Bob's hard work paid off. He got promoted to a higher position, and his company recognized his value and contribution. Bob realized that trust is a two-way street, and he had to put in the effort to build trust in his company, just like they had to put in the effort to build trust with him. And I think that, if you take this call it a parable here in regards to that. And I think that that's sometimes where we have issues, where we'll take a look at our companies, where we'll take a look at some of the things that are going on, and we'll question the validity of what the company is doing. And listen, we can sit here all day and talk about pro-worker, pro-company, pro-whatever. That's not what I'm talking about today. What I'm talking about today is how much trust do you have within your organization? To some extent, you must trust them because every week or every other week or every the 15th and the 30th of the month, you are trusting them that they're going to give you a paycheck in regards to the work that you do. They are trusting you in believing that you are going to provide a service in regards of what you're doing. So where does your limitation of trust start coming about within an organization? It's a difficult time sometimes. Let's just be realistic. And we have this entity that we call our job. We have this entity of this company that we work for. I'm not saying loyalty. I'm saying entity. Because we always have, I work for X, in an insert company here. But there are this big hurrah on how people vision it. You can insert any name for that company, and they're holding me down, they're pushing me back, they're helping me. There's so many different aspects on how you can apply that. But at the end of the day, is there a face to that company when you talk about it? Not really. But where does your level of trust go? Why is it that when you think of things that are bad, you can almost put a face on it? When things are good, can you put a face on that one? So where does your trust go within your organization? Do you trust them? Do you not trust them? Do you believe that they trust you? And if you're answering any of those questions, how can you help build for you to have better trust within each other? Yeah, that's an interesting one. Think about it that way.
Oops! What did he just say?
We at Safety FM don't always agree with the viewpoints of our hosts and guests.
Now back to real safety talk on Safety FM.
Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the home of real safety talk.
You are listening to Safety FM. We'll be right back.
Let's start using cutting-edge warp speed 5G technology with your cell phone. Let me tell you about my friends at mobile.io. They have an ultra-fast 4G LTE and 5G network that covers 99% of Americans. So they've got you covered everywhere. Think about it for a moment. You have the opportunity to take a test drive for 10 days with unlimited talk, text, and premium data. What is premium data? Premium data is an allotment of a cellular data that you receive from a higher priority on the network. You won't get throttled like you will with some of those, well, non-brand service providers. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to mobile.io. That's mobile.io to start your 10-day free trial.
Okay, men.
Hello.
This is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Have you ever wanted to start live streaming and were not sure how to do it? You can start live streaming up to 40 social media platforms all at one time for as little as nada. It's going to cost you your time. That is what it's going to cost. You can pre-record, you can live stream, you can do a multitude of things. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to safetyfm.com/one. That's safetyfm.com, ONE.
Is your safety training old, stale, and hackneyed? Safety trainers still preaching a warped version. How about safety training that actually addresses your hazards in your workplaces and is not standardized baloney from 25 years ago? Contact the Safety Wars team at safetywars.com or call Jim Polzel at 845-269-5772. Remember, if you're receiving this message, you are the solution to unsafe workplaces.
Late in the night, 'cause like a knife already hit. Somehow not quite. I wonder how to break through. I never tried to fit in. This is my chance, go for it all. Passes behind the fire and the fall. And even when I stumble, I know you will catch me.
past the top of the hour. We are still hanging out here on the Rated R Safety Show, hour number 1 of the Jay Allen in the Morning Show. And it is still Whip 'em Out Wednesday. Yep, Whip 'em Out Wednesday. So this little tune right here, this song is called Branches. This is by the Interstate. Songs readily available on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music. You can give it a little streamer-eamer, a little download action if you want to as well. We would like to thank the Interstate for allowing us to travel on it. Okay, no, wrong thing. For allowing us to play this. There you go. You know, I have to tell you, we have to play all kinds of different music. It's like I have this conversation with people all the time. I am not one genre. I just don't like one genre of music. There's so many different genres. Now, I do lean heavily on some of them. And I like a little bit of everything. I would consider this like electronic indie. Okay, so thanks to Interstate for this. Let's get back into the move and the groove of stuff that we have going on this morning. Because hey, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we talk about some of the stuff? So let's start talking about the most important thing that I will ever tell you in my lifetime. Because this is what I do. I talk. I talk quite a bit. Sometimes I feel like that's all I do is talk. But let me tell you about my friends at 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. They can help you prevent suicide. The Lifeline provides 24/7 free and confidential support for people in distress, prevention, and crisis resources for you and your loved ones, and best practices for professionals in the United States. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to 988lifeline.org. That's 988lifeline.org. Or you can text the word TALK to 988 or call 988. That will get everything moving and grooving for you in that particular regards. Like seriously, it's one of the best things that you can possibly that you can do, because we all go through struggles at times, and you never know if somebody else might need this information. So take a listen to this today. It might not apply to you. You might know someone who needs this, or maybe later down the road you might need this. It's always good to have this information and these resources available to you. That's 988lifeline.org. That's 988lifeline.org. That's a suicide and crisis lifeline. Let's get into some more news on some things that are going on inside of this world of ours as we take a look around. And let's talk about the word on passwords. If your bank password is the same as your Facebook, yep, it's time to change both of them, just as you know. Using weak or the same passwords across websites can put your data at risk. And with stats showing that the average internet user has more than 70 passwords, it's no surprise that we tend to default to something that's easy to remember, like pets' names or streets' names. And also in some passwords, cracking bots are able to run thousands of character combinations in attempt to accessing your data. It's a good idea to have some strong passwords. Here's how to create one. According to an expert, think of a phrase of strings of words that, while it's easy to remember, for example, like flowers grow outside, then add some numbers and special characters. The password can be flowers grow outside with a 3 instead of an E, and the number 0 instead of a 0, or the letter O, a 0 instead of the letter O, excuse me, and with a percent sign at the end is much trickier for a hacker, human or bots, to crack. So it would be like FLOW3RS GROW 0UTSID3 percent sign. Also impossible for you to remember, so something else to think about. And I thought that they made it including the symbols in your passwords just to drive you crazy. I mean, wouldn't that be kind of part of the equation on why some of that stuff would occur?
Another pitfall of our society. Rated R Safety Show.
I have a friend that they use the same password for everything. And the reason that I know this is because I have sat with them on multiple occasions. And I go, okay, cool, let's do this. They need your password. Oh, it's the same password from the other one. Like, what? No. And then the ones that I love the best are the ones that have the passwords in the notebook, where you're flipping through the notebook. Oh yeah, here's the password. So what the hell happens if you lose the notebook? it's a weird time. It's definitely a weird time when it comes to passwordy-yerdies for certain things. So there you go. Anyways, take a listen to this real quick. The FAA is investigating after two airplanes got a little too close to one another at Reagan National Airport last week. Sarah Bartlett has more info.
It happened as one plane crossed a runway without clearance, putting it into the path of another plane. Luckily, it was just a close call. This is one of the recent incidents that's prompted a safety summit. FAA Administrator Billy Nolan tells NBC News complacency is never acceptable when it comes to airline safety.
Let's stop, let's reflect, let's ask ourselves the question, are we missing anything? Is there anything that we should be doing different?
He added that the agency's safety record is incredible, but recent high-profile near misses gives them a chance to ask questions. I'm Sarah Bartlett.
So if we get everybody together and we start talking about the rules and say them louder and frequently, is that going to change stuff? Because listen, there seems to be a lot of stuff that's going on, and I wonder how many people will sit back and go, well, this is based on human error. I mean, you know that that's kind of the default answer that a lot of people like to give about everything. So what do you think? I mean, do you think that it's worth it? Do you think that it's worth the time of going through this whole thing? Because that's going to be the other part of the equation. I mean, think about it as we are talking. That is for sure. Anyways, let's continue talking about some other things. I don't know if I should mention this one, but let's do it anyways. Parents in Wyandotte remain upset about a 5G cell phone tower at Washington Elementary School. The district held a meeting at Wyandotte City Hall last week. This is coming out of Michigan, and heard the opposition.
I teach at Washington, and that tower is directly outside of my classroom, and I look at it every single day. I am in fear for my grandchild who is in the building. I am in fear of my neighbors' children who are in the building.
State Representative Jim DeSana spoke about the plans to build that would make sure that the tower is illegal in Michigan. Parents say that they will raise thousands of dollars a month that the district would lose by breaching their contract with T-Mobile. No decision has been made. The Washington Elementary School third grader spoke against the T-Mobile tower at the school.
I want you to know how many lives you are putting at risk and all of the staff you are putting at risk. So I ask you please to make the right decision now.
Okay, so I'm kind of confused here. So how are some lives being put at risk? Because if you go back into the olden ages and you take a look, and I'm just bringing this up, so don't think that I'm a dick for mentioning it. I remember when radio towers used to be put out, and this would cause interference with people's TVs. And I'm not joking as I'm saying this. So sometimes the radio stations had to actually replace televisions in the area for it wouldn't actually interrupt the signal. So what do you think about this? Do you think that this is one of these things that we're going to see a lot of stuff coming out of this? I mean, this will be a news story that we'll follow for some time. That is for sure. Anyways, take a listen to this. Republican lawmakers in South Carolina are considering a bill that would make a woman or a girl who has an abortion eligible for a death penalty. Mark Mayfield has more info.
The bill would change the state's criminal code and redefine person to include an egg fertilized at the point of conception. It describes an aborted fetus as an unborn child who is a victim of homicide and given equal protection under the state's homicide laws. That includes the death penalty. 21 South Carolina House Republicans supported the bill when it was introduced in January, but some have now asked to have their names removed from it since then. I'm Mark Mayfield.
It'll be interesting to see exactly what happens there for sure. A Tennessee woman says that her boyfriend allegedly held her captive in a closet in a vacant house for 2 months. Police got a report in Dyersburg, about the 80 miles northeast of Memphis, over the weekend after she managed to escape. Brittany Custer, a Dyersburg resident, says that she was shocked that no one knew for so long.
I know like bad stuff can happen anywhere, but it's like this is Dyersburg. This is such a small town, and for someone to be being held captive for 2 months, you think that someone would be like, hey, something's going on at this house.
How would somebody say something's going on at the house if she's being held captive? I don't think somebody's publicizing that. I mean, I'm just bringing that up. The suspect, 30-year-old Brenton Bell, is on the run. Police say that the 40-year-old victim had facial cuts, weighed under 100 pounds, and when they arrived on Saturday, she approached a local worker that day and told him that she had just escaped. She also told the police that she was only allowed out of the closet for an hour a day, given no bathroom facility and limited food. Anyone who sees Bell should contact the police as soon as possible. I mean, that would definitely make sense in regards of doing that. Let's talk about some things that happened back on this date as we are 53 minutes past the top of the hour on this lovely Whip 'em Out Wednesday. On 1991, 4 officers with the Los Angeles Police Department are charged with excessive force over the beating of Rodney King. The encounter occurred earlier in the month and was caught on amateur video footage, sparking a mass outrage. And this is when people had to use camcorders. You didn't have a cell phone that you could do this with, so it wasn't like instant putting it onto the cloud or onto the internet. The officers would be acquitted the following year, leading to the riots and unrest on the streets of LA that happened back in 1991. If we're looking at some birthdays for today, let's talk about some of those. Connor Ball turns 27. Jordan Fellis turns 34. Little Dicky turns 35. Kellen Lutz turns 38. Brian T, 46. Eva Longoria, she turns 48 today. Will.i.am turns 48. Mark Harpus turns 51. Kim Raver turns 54. Mark McGrath, he turns 55 today. Brett Michaels, 60. And Dee Snyder, he turns 68 today. So there you go. That's some birthdays. If you're looking at some days of the year to celebrate, it's World Contact Day, True Confessions Day, National Brutus Day, National Speech Day, Buzzard Day, National Napping Day, and World Consumer Rights Day. So a lot of days to take a look at in regards of doing some stuff. That is for sure as we are talking. So what day do you normally look forward to? Is there any day of the week that you go, hey, this day is pretty important, so let's talk about it. Anyway, so it's Wednesday, so let's talk about, not just Whip 'em Out Wednesday, let's talk about some whack facts. Though not commonly used, the day after tomorrow is called overmorrow, and I'm not joking. It's not the day after tomorrow. It's overmorrow. Before clocks were common, the terms disoil and wintershins were used for clockwise and counterclockwise. The Atlantic Ocean is saltier than the Pacific Ocean. Oh, let's start off with why is it salty? Male cats are called toms and female cats are called queens or mollies. Your lips don't touch when you say the word touch, but they do when you say the word apart. Think about that. You know you're trying it right now. It makes you kind of wonder some things. And when he was president, George H.W. Bush banned broccoli from Air Force One and the White House. I guess he really just doesn't like broccoli when it's all said and done. Anyways, if you need a random joke for today, I was married by a judge. I should have asked for a jury. You get it? Okay, I hope you do. So let's continue real quick. What else? If you need a phone starter for today, what's the biggest risk you've ever taken? What's the biggest risk you've ever taken? Question. Oh, hold on. I'm about to mess this whole thing up. I better get you Motivation Minute. Let's do that real quick before I get in too much trouble.
The Motivation Minute is courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. Today's quote was submitted by Adam. Jocko Willink said, "Leadership doesn't just flow down the chain of command, but up as well." Jocko went on to say, "We have to own everything in our world. That's what extreme ownership is all about." I love that. I've had the wonderful opportunity to visit with Jocko Willink a few times. In addition to being a very smart man, he's also very nice. If you want to be a great leader, you will not only impact your team, but your team will have an impact on you as well. So listen to them and let them make you and the whole team better. A leader who will not listen to the people they lead is not a very good leader at all. Part of leading is listening and learning. This has been today's Motivation Minute, courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. They're known for insurance quotes. I'm John Small. Thanks for listening. Your favorite motivational quotes can be submitted for upcoming programs at motivationminute.org.
Your Wellness Minute is brought to you by AlysaMorgan.com. One of the biggest mistakes in conversations on wellness is talking about exercise instead of talking about movement. Up until the 1960s, the only people who exercised were athletes. Everyone else just carried on with activities of daily living, and these people were much leaner and healthier on average than today. Research confirms that sitting all day and then going for a vigorous 1-hour exercise session is not nearly as effective as just moving more. Because we are so used to sitting, it may be difficult to find more opportunities to move. Walking instead of driving whenever possible, gardening, cleaning the house, normalizing more physical effort throughout the day. Consistent movement will take you much further than occasional exercise. For more information, check out alessamorgan.com.
Safety never sounded so terrible. Rated R Safety Show.
Yeah, I almost screwed the pooch on that one, so let's get into the last two. If you need a question for the water cooler, health experts say that you should wash these 2 or 3 times a year, although many of us don't. What are they? Your pillow. So there you go. And so that's it. That sums up our time together. Thank you for hanging out on this lovely Whip 'em Out Wednesday. Hopefully, I will see you at the top of the hour at radiobig.fm. And following up right now will be Sheldon Primus with the Safety Consultant Show. If you want to come and out, hang out, and take a listen. Thank you for always being the best part of Safety FM and Radio Big, and that is the listener. If I can't leave you with a deep thought for today, I would love to leave you with this one. And it sounds something like this. The most courageous act is to think of yourself aloud. Think about that. Anyways, I know who you are.
Duh.
You know who I am. Love you, mean it, and goodbye.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.